Welcome to More with the Mac, JP Reloaded. We're gonna have some short demos. We're gonna have some Q&A. We might even have some special guests stop by. So sit back, relax, gather your notes and ask questions, and enjoy More with the Mac, JP Reloaded. Welcome to the final session of More with the Mac, JP Reloaded. You're going to have to forgive me in advance because I'm about to jump around a little bit. A few things I forgot to show you, so let's go. We are going to show you how to add custom tones or alerts, sounds, whatever you want to call them, to your Mail app. Now, you can't do this in the Messages app you used to, but Apple does stuff and don't even give you a reason. But anyways, I'm going to show you how to add them to the Mail app. So you can have different sounds for your alert for Mail, whether you have it bouncing in your dock, in your notification center, which two of I don't do, so don't ask me how. But I can show you, after we do that, how to set different rules for different accounts, folders, from people, whatever. What I'm going to do, the first thing you need to do is make sure they are AIFF format for the extension. MP3, M4A, any other audio sign, ACC, WAV, ain't none of that gonna work. If it ain't AIFF, it ain't gonna work. Now, you don't need to go to a conversion program to convert it. You can just change the extension. How do I know? Because I've done it. Okay? So, all you have to do if you have a sound or alert that you want to use is go to the .mp3, AAC, W4RA, whatever. Just delete that and put in AIFF. Hit enter. It's going to ask you, are you sure? Do you want to use that? Of course, you're going to say yes. And then you change it. So now that we've done that, because I have like 30 sounds here that are already in AIFF, so I'm going to select all.
20 rows selected. Copy 20 items.
Of course, you got to copy them.
Class training
now,
audio.
You're going to go to your Go menu in the Finders with VO, M, and to the right.
Menu are Apple. Finder, File, Edit, View, Go.
All right, we're in the Go menu. Now, we're going to arrow down to Library.
Back command, left, forward command, recent command, document, desktop command, downloads command, home command, shift, library, computer command, library.
All right, there's Library. Now, for you quick nav users, you cannot hit enter here. It's not going to work. It's just going to throw you back in the Finder. How do I know? Again, I've done it. But since you want to see the demonstration, I'll show you. I'm going to hit enter.
Class training audio.
And bam, it sent me back to the desktop because enter does not work. You have to hit VO spacebar. So let's go back to the Go menu.
Menu bar, File, Edit, View, Go. Win, Go, back for and recent doc, desktop, download, home command, library.
Now I'm going to VO spacebar and watch what happens this time.
Library.
Wow, we are in the library now. So
list view, log.
Now you could arrow down about 18 times if you so choose, but I'm lazy, so I always find a short way to get there. So I'm going to type the letters SOU.
Sounds folder, collapsed.
How about that? So now I'm going to open this folder.
List view, list in explosion _ water splash, glass break. All
right, I already have two sounds in here because I couldn't wait, but I chose to wait for all of them put in here so I could show you this demonstration. Anyways, we're going to paste these files in here.
Copy, window.
Bam, now they're pasted. So now we're going to open the Mail app. Oh, well, we'll close this folder first.
Class training.
We're going to open the Mail app and we're going to go see how many sounds we got.
Mail, all inboxes. Signatures.
We're in signatures.
Toolbar.
Go to the toolbar. Go to general.
General out default.
This is stuff you should know already, so I'm not walking you through it. All right, now we're going to go over here to the Mail sound alerts.
New collapse unread capslet glass break 05.
All right, that's my current sound, but let's see if the other ones are in there.
Menu check slash.
Yep, that wasn't there.
Seg 5.
That wasn't there.
Seg 4. SEG 3. Seg 2. Checkmark glass. Fail 2. Explosion exclaim.
All right.
Explosion.
I guess I'll let you hear a couple of these.
Explosion universal water splash on 2. Menu check exclaim. Done.
Oh, you'll like this one.
Done. New message sound. Menu check DS9 door close. DS9 door chime cash register.
Cash register.
Cash register. New
Okay.
messages set menu.
But we're going to go back to the one I had before.
Exclaim. Explosion _ water splash fail 2. Glass break 05.
This one right here, what I have.
Glass break 05.
Bam, glass breaking. I like that sound. Anyway, so now you see that my custom sounds that I placed in the library folder from the Finder do not, and I repeat, do not do it from the Macintosh HD. It's not the same library and it will not work. How do I know? Again, because I've tried it. All right, so now that I got all these sounds in here, I can show you how to create a rule. So I have like 5 accounts. Anyway, and a couple of them I don't even use to get mail from, but 2 of them I do. So I want a different sound for each account so I know when I got new mail. So let's jump back over here to the toolbar.
Toolbar. In tool,
We're going to go to rules.
privacy extension rules. Rules out of rules. Row 1 of 4.
All right. So it says I have rules 1 of 4, but I got to enable a couple of these rules because I created them on my MacBook Air. But guess what? Because I created them there, all I got to do is check them here. But I'm going to show you what the how they're set up so you can know how to do it yourself. Let's see what this first one is.
Toolbar rules. Row 1 of 4. Untick tick box. Bits or untick tick box. VIP mail.
All right, we're going to do this one. This is my VIP mail one. So,
In rule description VIP mail.
all right, that's the description. You can give it a description. By default, it's going to say rule 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many you have.
VIP mail. Active untisk VIP mail. Out add edit.
We're going to edit it so I can show you how it's set up.
In dialog VIP description. If any.
All right, this is the area where you tell it what to follow. Now, I have not been able to figure this out because there's 2 choices here. It says if any or all. To me, it's the same thing. But for some reason, if you have it on all, it won't work. So leave it on any. Of course, you know how I already know.
Of the following conditions are met.
All right, here are the conditions.
Criteria.
Criteria. I got to interact, even though it didn't say so, because my verbosity is turned down. Y'all know me by now.
Sender is VIP.
Sender is VIP, but you have other choices in here.
Menu check. Sender is not in my previous recipients. Sender is in my previous sender is not in my sender is in my contacts. Account.
You can do it by account, too.
Date received.
Date received.
Date sent. Message is message.
But again, mine is VIPs because I have certain bills and a couple of people that are important enough, like my oldest daughter, because she always sends me stuff, that are in VIP. So I want to know when she's contacting me while I'm in mail. So I'll close this combo box.
Send. Delete criterion. Sender is VIP. Sender is VIP.
So that's the criteria. So we're going to stop interacting.
How to perform the following actions.
VoiceOver says perform the following actions. So let's see.
Actions. In actions.
In actions is
Play sound.
you can play a sound, but there's other stuff you can do here.
Menu move message.
I can move it.
Copy message.
I can copy it. Why would I want to do? I can do that myself.
Set color of message.
I cannot see, so why would I care about the color?
Check mark play sound.
Play sound is what I have checked.
Bounce icon and dock.
That's the one I was talking about earlier.
Send notification.
I can send a notification, which means it will go to the notification center. I actually might try that one just to see how it works. I normally don't like mail in my notifications, but that's because it was doing the inbox. But if I have a specific rule set for certain attributes like VIP and account, then it might not be so bad. So mine is on play that sound. So
Play sound.
let's go to the right.
Seg 5.
And Seg 5 is the sound that I have set for the MacBook Air. So all I gotta do is check this rule and it's gonna be active. But let me see. I'll let you hear what it sounds like.
Menu Seg 4. Check mark Seg 5. Seg 5.
That's the sound. So
Delete action.
I can delete it.
Add action.
I can add an action.
Add action.
And that's the last one. So you stop interacting.
Out help. Cancel. Okay.
I'm gonna hit cancel because I didn't change anything.
Edit.
But I do
Add
have.
rule.
But I do have to
Rule.
enable this
Add
rule. So
rules. In VIP mail.
because with your Apple ID and iCloud, because Apple does everything better than Google. I hope my ex-coworker is listening to this podcast because he loves Google. I love Apple. So he knows that Apple rules. Anyway, but because if you use an Apple or iCloud and you have multiple Macs, 1, 2, 3 of them, anything more than one, if you set a rule in your mail app, unlike Outlook, the rules will save in iCloud. And all you got to do is go into your mail settings on that additional machine and come in here and check them.
Description active untick tick box.
So let's check it.
Ticked.
I'm gonna check that one.
Untick tick box.
Gonna check
Ticked.
this one.
Untick tick box.
Gonna check
Ticked.
that one.
Untick tick box.
Check that
Ticked.
one.
Tick 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 box.
And the reason I did the sounds first is because these rules have custom sounds that are set on the other Mac, and if I hadn't put the sounds in here first, it wouldn't have known what to select. But since I did the sounds first, it knows. So let me take you to this family account.
Tick tick box.
I think this is it.
Out toolbar rules. Row 2 of 4. Tick tick box. Amazon.
Oh,
Selected.
No, that's Amazon. Why the hell do you have your own rule? Anyway, let me look at this because I don't even remember making this.
Active tick box description Amazon. Add rule edit.
All right, let's look at this rule because I don't even remember what I said for this.
Help. Actions. Help. Action. Perform the follow criteria. Delete criteria. Amazon. Content still contains. From.
No, so it's from Amazon.
Outperform the follow.
Contains. I wasn't talking to you. Stop. Anyway,
actions.
Actions is.
Play sound.
Okay, yeah. So I have a custom. Amazon has its own rule with its own sound. Who the hell you think you are? Anyway.
Cash register.
So it has a cash register sound. So yeah. As you can see, you can pick different things. You can pick account. You can pick VIPs. You can pick a domain or a person. In this case, I have Amazon. I can't say it. I got an echo here above my head. And if I say it, that's the wake word and it's going to wake up. But if you say if you do a.com, then you know the rest, set a sound, it will play for you so you know. But you know what? I'm about to edit this rule because.
To add action.
I want to.
To cash register. Play sound. Delete action. Add action. Add action.
I wanted
cash register. Play sound. Play sound. I wanted to. Perform the following actions. Criteria. Actions.
So
in play
sound. You can add an action.
Cash register.
Which I'm about to do here.
Delete action. Add action.
There's a
add action.
Okay, here's the new action.
Move message.
Move message, which I don't want to do because it already goes to a filtered folder. So I want it to play send notification.
Set color of play set bounce set reply send notification.
Right. We're gonna test it on that one. Send notification.
Play sound. Cash register. Delete action. Add action. Send notification.
All right. There's the second action. Now remember, if you want to add a second action in the what's this called?
Perform actions.
In the actions, if you want to have an additional action because initially it only has one, so you have to go to add action, deal to the right for the second. Drop down or pop up, whatever you want to call it, and then pick your second action. So my first one is play sound. My second one is send notification, which means if your mail is not open, it will send you a notification to your notification center. I'm testing it because I want to know if it's going to play the sound also, because, I'm nosy like that. But anyways, I got to save this.
Okay.
Hit OK.
Don't apply. Do you apply?
Hey, I'm going to apply it.
Edit.
And the nice thing about this, and I'm going to double check it when I get done, is I'm pretty sure because I updated this particular rule that it's going to update it on my MacBook Air. That's what's up. So that is how you add sounds to your Mail app and set rules. Now, again, unlike Outlook, if you have multiple Macs, these rules will sync in the settings. You just have to go to that newer device or the additional devices and check the box to enable them, but they are saved. Something that Microsoft don't do. I hope they listening. Anyway, all right, let's see what. Oh yeah, I got one more thing to show you, and then we're gonna let my buddy from TTJ Tech.biz show you how to work Keynote. I usually say equivalent to a Microsoft product, but in this case, I think Keynote far proceeds PowerPoint on Microsoft. So he's going to show you how Keynote can give you a better workflow and more choices than Microsoft PowerPoint. But let's go over to the messages because there's something I forgot to show you. A couple things actually.
Mail has no windows.
I'm gonna open it with my commander, and of course the commander's. Oh, it did work. Okay, so one thing I didn't tell you when we were in messages is if you have pins 1 through 9, you can jump to them by command 1 through 9. So let me see where I'm at.
Messages. Today 1. Shamika.
Okay.
Search text. Shamika.
So my daughter is number 3. So I'm going to push command 3.
Message iMessage. At messages in your iMessage. Which one?
All right. So that's my daughter's message. If I want to go to conversation 2, which is a conversation with both my daughters, it's called Daddy's Little Girls. I push command 2.
Message. Don't forget to tell Ty happy birthday.
Let's see. I mean, make sure you can hear. Stop interacting.
Arrow key. Quick nav off. Arrow out Saturday.
So let's go to the conversations table.
Shawnee conversations. Selected. Daddy's little girls.
Bam, there it is. And I think my third daughter, let me see, she is 1, 2, 3, 4. I think she's number 5. So let's hit number 5, and that should be my daughter, Corinne.
Message I'm add. Messages delivered. Text.
Let's go to
conversation.
Go to the conversations table.
Search tech Corinne.
And that's exactly who it is. So command 1 through 9 for your pinned conversations will take you directly to the message. So if you're in conversation 9 that's pinned, you can push command 1 and bam, it'll take you directly to that conversation. All right, last thing that I'm going to show you here. And again, remember, this is the last episode of More with the Mac, JP Reloaded. I may bring back my other series called More with the Mac, Beyond the Basics, but I got to figure out what Beyond the Basics I want to teach you for free, because I can't show you everything, because then you won't contact me to pay me for some additional training. So if you want to get to the links, photos, or documents like you would on your phone or iPad, you know, where you double tap the name and then you go to links and photos and all that, I'm about to show you how to do that on the Mac. So on the Mac, if you were in a conversation, let me get to a conversation that actually has some.
Core toolbar. Corin. Searched conversation. Dusty. Pod. Mac. Capital One. Original. Davion. Aaron Smith.
Okay.
Unread. So
this friend of mine sent me some stuff from Walmart today, and that has a couple links in it. So in order to get to those those links, or if they were photos or documents, I would hit Command Option I.
Message iMessage. Edit text.
All right, it said message iMessage, and it threw me directly into the message thread, but I don't want that. So I'm going to stop interacting. I'm going to go to the top of the conversation.
Toolbar. Aaron.
Now, it says the name.
Collection.
If you hear collection, that is a place where you have to interact. This is going to be for our first set of links or whatever they're going to be. Let's see what they are, because I can't remember.
In collection request location. Share my location.
All right, that's location. We do not share location with each other.
Out of collection.
All right, here's a second collection.
In collection mobile. Country code.
All right,
out
that's
of collection.
That's the contact info.
Aaron. Tech. Selected. Info. Backgrounds.
There's backgrounds. Photos.
Links.
And here goes links. So I'm a VO space bar.
Select Aaron. Toolbar. Aaron. Image. Reese's. Peanut butter cups minute.
I love those. Reese's peanut butter cups, because that's the link that she sent me to the store, because I was being lazy and didn't want to find it myself. But again, to get to this information within a conversation, make sure the conversation that you want this stuff from is selected. Command, Option, and the letter I as in igloo, you know, because it'd be cold outside in Minnesota. Anyway, Command, Option, I. It's going to put you, make sure you're in that conversation. You're going to have to go to the top of the conversation, find the collections, interact, and find the one you want, because they're not labeled. Actually, they might be, but my verbosity is turned down. So it could say collection photos, collection links. I don't know, because my verbosity is turned down. All right. So coming up next, we got my buddy Matt from TTJ Tech.biz. Like I said, he's going to show you how to work Keynote, because it's better than PowerPoint.
TTJ Tech. We're going to be talking about Apple Keynote today. So welcome to this presentation. I'm very excited about Keynote. I use Keynote quite a lot on the iPad, but of course it's compatible with iCloud. So that means if I'm using it on my iPad, it also, the presentations show up on my Mac and on my iPhone and everywhere else too. And so it's going to be the same kind of thing as with Pages. Just to give you a couple of pointers before we get started, Keynote is a multimedia presentation app. We would sort of say, kind of like we loosely said that Pages is the equivalent of Word, but we think Pages offers a lot more. We'd kind of say the same thing about Keynote. It's supposed to kind of be the equivalent to Microsoft PowerPoint, but I believe it goes way above and beyond. And I think it's a very powerful app.
This is a Mac
to use.
This is a Mac presentation, right?
Right.
So don't insult Apple like that. It's not an equivalent. It does more.
Yeah,
it's more accessible.
It does.
The layout
It does.
is, I mean, look, everybody knows that I'm an Apple fanboy, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I'm not just saying this because I like Apple products. I grew up on Microsoft. So, I go all the way back to MS-DOS, WordPerfect, stuff like that. So this is not coming from somebody who just jumped into Apple and says Apple is the greatest. I've worked with Microsoft products and the accessibility, along with the screen readers, JAWS, Window Eyes, even a little NVDA. And the bottom line is Keynote, as well as Pages and any other app that I've used on Mac, has fully exceeded the features and accessibility that Microsoft can compare to. So,
well, that's exactly what it is, and I'm the same way. I mean, I would absolutely say that I'm an Apple fanboy, but that's because Apple has earned that. It's not that I've just decided to say, oh, I'm going to just like Apple no matter what they do. No, it's because consistently they deliver above and beyond. They push the envelope farther than anybody else is willing to. They do a better job of it, and we could go on and on. But yeah, I agree with you 100%. And so the same thing is true here. Now, when you are creating presentations, the idea behind this is you're going to create something that you could use in a business setting to present the outline of your project or your budget, or you could use it in a church for sermon notes. You could use it in school for educational purposes when you're presenting on a history project or some other kind of thing. Families maybe use it for travel plans, all sorts of things you could do with this. But what I want to make sure we point out before we get started, just like we did in our iPad class for those who took that, is the idea behind creating a multimedia presentation is not to tell the whole story on the slide. So if I'm creating a project for school, for example, and maybe I'm creating a project on a particular subject like World War II, I'm not going to put in a slide and then start writing a paragraph and say World War II took place.
You want to have notes to remind you of what you want to talk about in your presentation, correct?
Like bullet points, exactly. And we can do those on here, and we can do photos and video and all sorts of things on our slides. So let's go ahead. I'm already in my applications folder. There could be other ways for you to get to it. Maybe it's even on your dock, but I was already in the applications folder anyway.
Keynote application.
I was going to say mine is option K.
There you go. There you go. All right, and let's see what that's going to sound like.
What's new in Keynote? Window, continue, default button has keyboard focus.
And that if you needed a confirmation that I do it on the iPad, typically this is telling me on the Mac, which means either I've never opened it or it's been a while. And I think, anytime they release an update, they may put that in there again. You can swipe, you can control option right arrow or control option left arrow, whatever you need to do to read through this screen.
Continue.
But then there's the continue button. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit that because your what's new could be, from different versions or what have you. So VO space.
Now in open window, icon view collection.
Now, how many times can we say it? Predictable patterns, fundamentals. This is just like the document area in Pages, or I imagine even in text edit or anything where you can choose to open an existing project. And we can choose to open an existing presentation, but we're also going to find when we VO left arrow and VO right arrow an option to create a new one. And that's what we'll do.
Cancel, but open, cancel icon view collection.
There's our collection where we have existing presentations. If I interact with that, you'll find
ATV Keynote.
I might be jumping the gun a little bit here, but doesn't Keynote have that same option that Pages has where you can set a default template so you don't have to choose it every time?
It probably does in the system settings, or not system settings, but in the settings for the app.
Okay.
I would imagine.
Out of icon, vertical, sidebar, take vertical icon, view mission control.
Now, one of the things that I will tell you is
Finder applications, Keynote, cancel icon view.
One of the things I'll tell you is the first choice in this collection, if you interact with it, was new document or new presentation.
In icon view collection, ATV, new document, image.
New document.
Actions available, new document. Now in window, collection.
VO space.
You are currently on a collection inside of a scroll area.
And I'm just going to pause that because we already know. What this is this is where we're going to choose a theme for our presentation. If we go to the left here.
Wide, 16:9, choose a theme. Wide, 16:9, pop-up button.
That's a pop-up button that allows us to change the aspect ratio of the themes we're going to be working with. Not going to mess with that right now. I want to interact with this collection here to the right. And I want to...
In collection, new section.
Now, just like with pages, you have these templates or themes, in this case, organized by category. So this is the new section.
Recents section.
There's recents.
Basic section. Dynamic minimal section. Bold section.
Okay, look at all these different sections. Now, if I want a particular one, like let's say, for example, that I want dynamic.
Dynamic section.
We're going to probably have to interact with that because it says section. We hear the word section, remember? We know.
In section, 0 items, dynamic color, dark text on light pink and core moving backgrounds button, group. Dynamic waves light, gray text on light, moving backgrounds button, group.
And there might be more choices, but in the interest of time, we're just going to pick one. I kind of like
dynamic color, dark text on light pink and core moving backgrounds button, group.
So let's VO space.
Now in untitled window, slide layout area.
Now, the
format,
first thing,
move, and resize items within the slide. You are currently on a layout area.
Okay. The first thing we hear is that we're in a layout. We're on a layout area. It's our slide, probably the slide navigator, which is where you can move between slides, or perhaps not. Perhaps it's the actual slide itself. We're going to find out in a moment by doing a little exploration. But before we can do that, I really think it's important for us to rename this document right away. Again, just like in Pages, you have a couple of different ways you can do that. You can do a Command S. You can go to the File menu. You can also go to the toolbar. And if we stop interacting here, I'll just show you around a little. Actually, we're out as far as we can go. So
vertical splitter.
We go to the left.
Slide navigator, table, row.
Okay, so that's the slide navigator right there. We're still going to the left.
Document actions. Dimmed menu button. Untitled.
And you see that it says untitled. Now,
document action.
Document action says it's dimmed.
7 items.
It still works. So I don't really know why they say that, but if I VO space on it, even though it's dimmed, it does bring up the pop-up menu. And here's what we have.
Untitled. Contents selected. Edit text.
We have an edit field and the contents are already selected. So I can just type, and I'm going to do Mac Keynote test.
Selection replaced. Cap M, C, Mac, hyphen, cap, E, Keynote, cap, E, T. Test.
And we could just press return and be done with it. But since we're in the process of exploring, let's VO right arrow.
Tags. Tag editor, edit text.
Just as a general review, a tag is a friendly little descriptor, you know. If this is a project for a history class, you could put history. If you use it for church or a business or, you know, anything that you do. And the good part about tags is it's easy to organize things by tag because you can later come back and you can look up your tags and see what presentations and documents and spreadsheets and music and everything else, files that you have that correspond to those tags. So that's the tag area.
Where? Keynote, iCloud, pop-up button.
I absolutely want to leave that alone.
You are current.
That would let me choose a different location, but of course I want to save it in Keynote in iCloud because then it's going to be there on all of my devices. So
locked, unchecked, checkbox.
We can lock this document to prevent further changes.
Locked, unchecked.
So what I'm going to do...
Where? Tag editor, edit tags. Mac Keynote test. Contents selected, edit text.
And press return.
Slide navigator, table, row 1 of 1. Selected, Mac Keynote test, window.
Okay. The first thing we want to do is explore a little more. So let's go back to the left with VO left arrow.
Document actions, Mac Keynote test, full screen button, minimize button.
And that's going to be as far
close
to the left as we can go. Now, I would speculate that later on when we look at our view menu, that there might be things we can show that are not currently showing, like toolbars and so on. I don't really know that to be true because, as I said, I do use this on the iPad normally. I've used it on the Mac. I absolutely have, but I don't regularly and not often enough to remember that necessarily from the last time I used it. But if I wanted to check that out right now, you know, we've taught you how to progressively explore, but let's say I want to jump ahead and I want to see, is there anything in the view menu that I could show that might be helpful? We can VOM.
Apple menu, 10, system settings, ellipsis.
We can
Keynote menu, file menu, edit, insert, slide, format, arrange, menu, view, menu.
There's view. Let's just see if there's anything
Show
in
tab
view.
bar. Show all tabs. Inspector, submenu.
And
Check mark, navigator.
Navigator is checked.
Slide only. Light table.
Okay, let's look at
check mark. Inspector.
Inspector and see what that is.
Inspector submenu. 6 items. Check mark. Format. Animate. Document. Show next inspector tab. Show previous inspector tab. Dimmed Control Shift accent.
And there are going to be some commands for that as well.
Hide inspector command option.
And I'm gonna explain what that is in a little bit. So let's not get too worried about that right now because you may not know yet what the inspector is, but we'll get there. I'm just going to hit escape here.
Closing menu. Close button.
So for right now,
You are currently on the button.
Our Keynote window is pretty simple and pretty straightforward. We go to the right and all we've
Minimize full screen Mac Keynote test. Document actions menu button.
Those are our document actions, and notice now it doesn't say dimmed anymore. Slide
navigator table row.
Let's see if there's any more document actions now that we've done that.
7 items. Name. Mac Keynote tags. Tag at where. Keynote locked.
Okay, that's still the same thing. So we'll hit escape. All right, we're on the slide navigator, which is the next item.
Document slide navigator table row 1 of 1 selected.
And it tells me that there's only row 1 of 1. This is the area that houses all of the slides in your presentation. As you know, we only have 1 right now. So if I interact with this.
In slide navigator table, row 1 of 1, slide 1, text selected, slide 1, text. Slide 1.
And you see that we can't move anywhere else when we're inside of that because there's only 1 slide. If we had 4 slides, we'd be able to move 3 times to the right to see 2, 3, and 4. And
no visible title to interact.
You can't interact any further. So that's all we can do right now with the slide navigator because there's only 1 slide so far. So let's stop interacting.
Added slide navigator table.
And let's see what else we find if we go to the right.
Vertical splitter. Slide layout area.
Okay.
Toolbar.
And then
formatter group.
Look at all that stuff. It's not at the top of the screen. It's at the bottom. Remember I said I suspect there's a toolbar. Well, there sure is. It's just further down. And there's the formatter. And then that is it. So I'm going to go back to the left because the next thing we want to look at is the slide contents themselves, which is the slide layout area.
Slide layout area.
Let's interact with that.
Title, presentation title, text box layout item. Title, body, presentation subtitle, text box layout item. Text box layout item.
All right. So you've got 3 text boxes here. Now, in case you don't know, in a presentation, you're always going to use text boxes when you want to enter text. It's very important that we explain this. I think we touched on it briefly in Pages when we described the difference between a word processing and a page layout document. A text box is needed when you have a blank canvas because it's not a word processing document where you can just type and it automatically just adds pages when it needs to and so on. It's not a free-flowing word processing document. It's a blank canvas, and you can literally place objects, photos, videos, web links, shapes, and other things on that canvas when you want to. And so in order to make it possible to enter text, you have to use a text box. And the beautiful thing about that is when you have your text in a text box, you can literally drag that text box anywhere on the slide. You say, well, I don't like it there. I want to move it down below the photo. Well, then do it. Just drag it down below the photo. So that's why we have a text box set up here. And one of the things that folks who use screen readers often get concerned about, with good reason, is the text box too small to accommodate the amount of text that I'm going to be typing? But in a case like this, I don't think that's a concern. Because again, remember what I said earlier and Trainer Cliff said earlier, we don't tell the whole story here. We're writing points and short things. And if it's a template like this, they've already given us a place for a title. So for example,
body, title, presentation title, text box layout item. Actions available. Size, 1730.0 points wide, 366.0 points tall. Position, horizontally centered, 18.8% from top. You are currently on a layout item, inside of a layout area. To add comment, add title, add caption, and deselect all, press Control, Option, Command, Space first to bring up the action menu.
All right, you got a lot of information there. VoiceOver does an absolutely excellent job of telling you the size and the position of the object. In this case, it's the title text box. We also know that there are going to be actions available with the VO command spacebar context option. But let's see what just happens if we just VO space on it.
Edit text.
And what it did
Actions
is it brought
available.
us.
You are currently on a text area inside of a layout item. To deselect all, press Control Option Space.
Okay, it brought us into this edit box where we can type our presentation title. So let's just call it Mac class.
Title Kappa A C Mac S class.
Okay. Now, it's important to understand
S.
that I can still use all the same navigation commands that I used in Pages, like the arrow keys, or even in Notes or Text Edit or Word, where I use the left and right arrows, the option left and option
Clause.
right.
Mac.
See, I'm moving
Mac class.
Moving back and forth. I can select by adding the Shift key, and I assume I can VoiceOver jump if I select the words
Mac class selected.
And I can probably
in
do
formatter
this.
Group.
Yep, VOJ to jump over to the formatter. So if I want to format that title now,
Style.
and I suspect in Keynote it's already going to be formatted, and I really don't have much I need to do, but let's take a look
Text
anyway.
radio button 2 of 3. Arrange radio button 3 of 3.
We're going to choose text
radio selected.
And go to the right.
Arrange title button. Style selected. Radio button 1 of 2. Layout radio button 2 of 2. Text formatter scroll area.
Now you heard it say title up there. That's because this is the title paragraph style. You remember us talking about paragraph styles? This is already using the title style because it is a title text box. So they've already done the heavy lifting for us. But let's suppose I want to interact with the text formatter here to see what exactly I'm dealing with.
Font. Helvetica Neue. Font family. Pop bold. Font typeface pop-up button. 116 point. Contents select.
And that's very, very large because this is going to be used on a projector screen somewhere, in theory. And it's 116 point. That's an edit box.
11.5%. 116 point. Font size stepper.
Or you can use the stepper.
Font style group.
And this is the group.
You are currently on.
Change the font style. Won't go into all that right now, but you
show
can.
more text options.
And we can show even more text options. And then
character styles. None button. Text color. Pop-up black 0. Black 0. Horizontal alignment. Indentation level group. Vertical alignment.
So if we want to,
indentation
level, we can go into that. And then you go to the right now. We didn't interact with that. You could.
Spacing. Collapsed disclosure triangle. 0.8. Spacing. Pop-up button.
We're looking at margins.
Spacing.
Here.
Bullets and lists. Collapse. 0.8. Spacing. Collapse. Vertical alignment group.
When you
indentation level. Vertical alignment group.
You could interact with
spacing. Vertical
alignment.
Vertical alignment middle. Unchecked. Check top. Unchecked bottom.
Okay. You
out
can interact
indentation
with
level group.
Indentation level.
Increase indent. Increase in decrease indent. Decrease in out of indent.
And then here you have
spacing. Collapsed disclosure triangle.
A disclosure triangle
you are current.
that says that it is collapsed. Now, sometimes VO space will expand these, and sometimes you need to use VO backslash. Let's see what it tells us.
The disclosure triangle inside of a scroll area. To expand or collapse the contents of this item, press Control Option Space. To stop interacting with this scroll area, press Control Option Shift up arrow.
They seem to say VO space is going to work, so let's do it.
Expanded.
Okay, and now we can go to the
spacing. Lines. Line spacing. Pop-up button. 0.8. 7.1% before paragraph. 0% after paragraph.
There's a lot of stuff here you're going to need to play with if you really want to format your text, okay? But we're going to stop interacting a couple of times and go back to the slide layout area because we were nowhere near done.
Out. Formatter, toolbar. Slide layout area. In slide layout area, body, present title, Mac class, text box layout item.
Okay. It has the words Mac class in it. And remember that there are actions. So I really want us to take a look at what those actions are by doing a VO command space.
Actions menu, 7 items.
I'll go down here, VO down
deselect all. Add caption.
So if you want to deselect this, you can do that with the deselect all. We can add a caption.
Add title. Add comment. Edit text. Show menu. Jump to style radio button, 1 of 3. Jump to style radio.
Okay. Look at those
Show
choices there.
menu.
The
Edit text.
edit text if you want to make a change to the text you typed. And let's see what show
Show
menu
menu.
has in it for us.
Menu, 18 items. Show menu title, Mac class, bring to front, send to back. Align objects, submenu.
So this has to do with the text box. Bring it to the front, to the back.
Distribute objects, cut, copy, paste, duplicate, lock, add link, submenu.
If you want to add a link, in your text.
Reapply layout to object, make editable. Break apart, save to my shapes, Matthew's iPhone, dimmed, take photo.
And that's because you can take a
Scan
photo
documents, add sketch,
using your iPhone or add a sketch from the touch
add
screen.
sketch,
So those,
add
and I think
sketch,
that's,
scan
that's
document.
it. So those are the various options that you have in the menu. Now,
Closing menu, title, Mac,
we're going to go over here to the body text, which they said is the subtitle.
body, presentation subtitle, text box layout,
And VO space on
edit
that.
text,
And we'll just say all about the Mac.
subtitle, all, the C, Mac,
And again, if we just
edit
VO,
text, edit text,
if we just VO left and right, we're still going to be in this. But if we want to, what we can
text
do
box layout,
is stop interacting, and it will bring us back here. We just do VO shift up.
body, all about the Mac, text box layout item.
And now, I didn't try VO shift M. We did the VO command space, but I assume VO shift M is that same menu problem.
Menu, 18 items. Bring to front, send to back, align up.
It's going to be the same option. So we'll hit escape there.
Closing menu.
All right, let's go to the right.
Text box layout item.
There's one more text box here, and it doesn't actually say on this what it is, but I happen to know from the iPad it's where you put the author and date. So if I VO space
Edit
on
text.
that,
Actions available. You are currently on cap V. MG4. NGV 2000.
All right, so we stopped interacting. So you have these three.
Title, Mac class, body, all about the Mac, text MGV 2024, text box layout.
You've got all those things there. Now, here's where we can start to really kind of get creative. And, maybe we want to add some other things to our slide to make it more exciting. So I think before we do that, we ought to explore the toolbar. So let's stop interacting with this. And remember, we're going to go VO right arrow. And there's the toolbar. Let's see what's on that.
In toolbar, view menu button, group 95%, add slide button.
Oh, that's good to know because we need to know how to add more slides to our presentation. So aren't you glad we looked at the toolbar? There might be a keyboard shortcut, but right now we know it's here in the toolbar anyway.
Play button.
There's how we play our show. Okay, there's the play button, so you can play your
Table
slide.
Button.
Your show.
Chart button. Text button. Shape button. Media menu button. Group.
Okay, so what these are these are things that you can insert. Tables, charts. A shape is kind of like clip art. They're basically like animated cartoon images. You can find shapes in a variety of categories, whether it be food, animals, travel, education, all sorts of different ones. Maybe I'll show that to you, but that's the shapes. And here's media.
Comment button.
You can also add a comment.
Share button.
And there's your share button. So we want to share this with somebody either collaboratively so the two of you can work together or in sending a copy. We have that option under the toolbar. I think it's also in the menu bar, but it's definitely in the toolbar.
Format. Selected. Radio button.
We've already got format selected.
Animate radio button.
And there's animate. And I'm going to show you what that does too.
Document radio button.
And these are different inspectors that you can choose
Document
to see.
radio.
Okay. So if you hear that word inspector, format, animate, and document are all inspectors that allow you to go deeply into something. And that's an important term on the Mac. So let's go back.
Share button.
And let me show you first the media
Comment
options.
button. Media menu button. Group.
VO space.
Menu 11.
And you can see what kinds of media we can insert into our slideshow.
Photos or videos ellipsis. Music ellipsis. Image gallery. Web video ellipsis. Record audio. Live video. Choose ellipsis. Matthew's iPhone. dimmed. Take photo, dimmed. Scan documents, add sketch, dimmed. Add sketch, dimmed.
All right. So let me just explain what a
Closing
few of
menu.
these are. Most of them, I think, are self-explanatory, photos and videos. You can look at your library. You can add music. The music that you add when you do it that way is going to come from the Apple Music app, but it must be music that you've actually purchased. It cannot be streaming music from Apple Music, and that's also true of any other streaming service, whether it's Apple Music or Amazon Music or YouTube Music or Spotify, any of them. They're all not going to be able to be inserted elsewhere because they're all copy protected. So it would have to be music that you purchase or you get from a CD or something. And then you saw that we could insert from, so we could insert from a file. Maybe you've got an MP3 or some other kind of file just sitting on your, either in iCloud or on your drive somewhere. And, you could insert a file of a variety of sorts, a video file. You could insert an audio track, whatever it may be. That's just the insert from. You also heard live video. So you can actually use your camera while you're giving a presentation, and it will show to everybody what your live video is. I think we had web video, which allows you to paste a link to a YouTube video, for example, or other online video services. And then you also heard my iPhone listed there with the options of taking a picture, drawing a sketch, or scanning a document. Again, that will use the cameras on my iPhone. So there's a lot of options here under media, and we could certainly look at those. If I wanted, let's
media menu button, menu, photos or music, image gallery, web video ellipsis.
Oh, an image gallery, that's cool too, because you can put a whole series of images together as one object. You can VoiceOver label your images so it will read to you what each image is. It's really, really powerful.
Record audio.
You can record audio.
Live video, choose ellipsis.
I'm going to say choose. That's the insert from option. I misspoke. Insert from is how they say it on the iPad, but it's choose. It's the same thing. And if I do that,
open dialog icon view collection.
It's going to let me pick
vertical split sidebar table.
Let's look at
in
the sidebar
table. iCloud drive, iCloud image. Out of sidebar table.
Go over to the
vertical icon view
collection.
Keynote pages fold audio Logic Pro for downloads numbers full attachments and audio files full.
I want to find something royalty free that isn't going to get us in trouble with copyright. What I want us to do is go back to this. I want us to stop interacting with the toolbar.
Out of toolbar.
Remember, we were in a toolbar. I want us to
Book
go back.
music ending 4:10:21, 8:29 p.m. Audio layout item.
Look, it's right
Body,
there.
All about the Mac.
Remember, there's no
Title,
slides.
Mac class. Body. All book music ending 4:10:21, 8:29 p.m.
And I would think if I press, okay, you could hear that. Hopefully, I think on the recording, you can hear that. So that is how easy it is to insert something. And I'm going to also show you how easy it is to animate this slide now, because one of the things we can do is add transition effects. So we're going to stop interacting and go back to the toolbar again.
Out of slide toolbar.
And I'm going to find the inspector
Into
area.
9 adds play, table, chart, but text, but shape, button,
You can
media,
also find that
comments.
option to add media or add a file to your Keynote presentation under the insert menu, which is, in the file. What is it? File, edit, and then the next
File,
one,
edit, insert. Yes, exactly. And we didn't even do the menu bar yet, but you're right. That has a lot of the similar options in it. Yes. And so that's a great point. Now, this inspector for
Share
animate.
button, format, select animate, radio button, selected.
Once that is
Show
selected,
or hide
I
animation
stop.
options.
Okay,
You are currently on a select.
Nah, I stop interacting with this toolbar
Out of
here,
toolbar.
and I go to the right.
Formatter group.
There's the formatter.
Toolbar.
We'll go back to the
Slide
left.
layout vertical split slide navigator table edited dimmed menu button M dash. Mac Keynote test full screen button.
Okay, so we're not
edited
seeing it
slide
there.
navigate vertical.
So what we're going to
Book
do.
music ending 4:10 MGV 2020 MGV 2000 out of slide toolbar. In
Back to this toolbar.
Document radio animate selected radio button.
And
Out
animate
of
is selected. Now
formatter
listen,
group.
it still calls it formatter, but I want to show you when
In
we interact with
formatter
this.
group built in selected.
it's not the same formatter we knew before. Before, it was the formatter for our text. Now, it's the formatter for the animations. You have built-in,
selected radio button, 1 of 3, action radio button, 2 of 3, build out radio button,
action and build out. So let's say we want to do a build-in for this slide.
No build-in effect. Add an effect button. Build-in formatter, empty scroll area.
And it's empty because there's nothing. So let's say
add an effect in scroll area. 44 items not appear and move. Appear toggle button, blur toggle but compress toggle dissolve top drift toggle drift and scale drop toggle button.
Let's just do drop.
Add an effect but Mac Keynote test window.
And I VO spaced on that.
Action
now,
radio but build drop. Change button.
You can
Preview
change it.
button. Build-in formatter scroll area.
And now the
duration 16.9%. Duration 1 second. Contents selected. Duration edit 16.9 in slot 22.3 26 32.2 out of 2.75 seconds.
That's almost 3 seconds.
6.9%. Step text animation. By object pop-up order. 2 pop-up button.
And I'm not going to get into this extensively, but sometimes you have to change the order of these things where it fits into the sequence if you have a lot of objects in your slide and so forth.
Delivery. All at once. Pop-up button.
And that would be interesting.
Menu by paragraph group, by highlighted paragraph, by highlight.
See, so you can actually change the way text
Closing
appears.
menu, all at once.
Now we're going to stop.
Build-in formatter, build order button.
There's our build order, which again, I don't want to mess with, but if we had more stuff in here, we might need to.
Build in.
I think that's all you got to do. Just stop interacting with that. And you know now that this slideshow should play the way that we've set it up to play. But before it does, I want to create one more slide so you can see how that process goes. Remember that the add slide button was in the toolbar.
In toolbar. View menu 95 add slide button. 2 items, add to slide.
VO space. Now, once you VO space, you're going to choose the kind of slide.
Area.
We interact with the scroll area.
17 items, title button, title and photo button, title and photo alt button, title and bullets button.
We're just going to do title and bullets. Keep it real simple. VO space.
Add slide button.
Now, you will notice if I stop interacting here and I go over to my slide navigator.
Vertical split slide navigator table, row 2 of 2, select.
We now have 2 items
in slide navigator. Slide 1, Mac class, contains builds. Slide 2, text.
And while we're here,
to begin interacting with the contents of this image, press Control, Option, Shift, down arrow. To navigate the cells within a table.
Okay, we can interact with that.
No visible title to enter.
But we actually can't.
Menu.
We can VO Shift M on the slide itself, and let's look at those options.
New slide. Skip slide. Expand, dimmed. Collapse, dim, cut. Copy, paste, delete, duplicate, select all, edit slide layouts ellipsis. Reapply layout to Matthew's iPhone, take photo, scan, add sketch.
Well, the same stuff, but additional things as well. So if you need to delete the slide, again, that's VO Shift M when you have it highlighted. We're on the correct
slide 2,
and so we'll go over
vertical slide layout area. Title, slide title, text box
we have a title text box
layout item. Body, slide bullet text box.
There's the bullet
body,
text.
Title,
so,
slide title.
The title. All right, let's just say Mac apps I like. Text. Or actually, no, that would be a subtitle. Let's just call my favorites or my
titles.
Faves.
My KS. Faves.
Now we'll stop interacting.
Text box layout item.
And here's the subtitle.
Edit text.
VO space.
Mac. Cap P cap I cap I cap L E. Like Mac apps I like. Title. My faves. Mac apps I like. Tech.
And here's our body.
Slide bullet text.
Which is our bullet text. So if I VO space, we ought to be able to press return after each bullet. So Mac apps I like. Well, why not
Body
Keynote?
Entered list. Cap K E Y E. Keynote.
And press return.
New line. New list item.
And you heard it made a new list item, and we'll say pages.
Bullet. H-E-S. Pages.
And we'll just do one more for now. There's a bunch, but let's just do one more. Return.
New list item.
And we'll just say garage.
R.
Whoops.
GarageBand.
We'll stop
GarageBand.
interacting, but before we stop interacting, I want to show you that if I use the up arrow,
Bullet. Pages. Bullet. Keynote. Bullet.
Down arrow.
Pages. Bullet. GarageBand.
so it confirms for me very nicely, praise God, that these are bullets. I can stop interacting, and my mission has been accomplished. Now, if we want to play this thing, let's go back to the first slide.
My title. Out of slide. Slide nap. In slide 1. Mac class.
So over
slide.
here
Let toolbar. In tool. Add slide. Button. Play. Button.
is our play button with VO
Play
space.
to Mac class. Keynote has
Now,
new window.
It is showing the
You are
it
currently
says
on a
Mac
text
class,
element.
and let's just look around the screen here. I'm giving this presentation,
All about
but
the Mac.
it says all about
Book
the Mac.
music ending 4/10/20 MGV
Now,
2000 MGV 2000.
It's all there, but I think on the Mac, what I need to do is press the space bar to advance from build to build.
Slide 1. Mac class. Slide Mac apps I like.
And I press the space bar again, and it moved on to the next
My
slide.
faves.
And if I'm not sure of what's there and I'm giving a presentation, I can VO left and VO right to
Mac
check it
apps I
out.
like.
And I can say, oh, yeah, this slide is about the Mac apps I like. Well, I'd like to tell you about the Mac apps that I like. We're going to talk about 3 today. First off, I really like Keynote. It's way better than PowerPoint, and it is fully accessible, and it allows me to do all kinds of cool things. And the second Mac app I like is, and I'm just drawing a blank, and I say, well, what do I do? Well, how do I find out? Well, just use your VO
Entered
right
left
arrows.
bullet. Keynote. Bullet. Pages. Bullet. GarageBand.
Oh, yeah. So Pages. I really like Pages, and then you just talk about that. And when you're all finished, you can escape to get out of the slideshow anytime, or you can
Mac Keynote test window.
just press the space bar again, because it will continue to advance from build to build and from object to object and from slide to slide until you get to the end. If you want to get out of it sooner, you can press escape. Now, the other thing
Slide
we have
navigator.
that I just want to show you is I didn't show you the share menu, and I want to do that briefly.
Shape button.
And then I
Text,
know, yeah.
Shape.
I do want to show you shapes. I told you we would briefly. So let me just show you a shape here.
4 items. Search text field. Pen tool button.
Now you can search
Table.
for shapes.
Row 1 of 16. Base.
If you interact with this
Basic.
table,
Geometry. Objects. Animals. Nature. Food.
look at all those different, and there's way more. But let's just say I chose animals. Now, if I VO
Out
shift
of
up
table.
arrow,
Collection.
go to the right to the collection and interact.
Geometry. Objects. Section. Objects. Animals. Nature. Nature. Leaf.
Animals.
I was kind
Button.
of interested in that.
Looks like what I
geometry.
needed.
What was I going to do? Show you some math symbols?
Probably
Leaf
does.
Button. Leaf. Button.
I'll go back and look.
Cactus. Button. Out of food.
Wow.
Empty. Nature.
Okay.
Animals. Section.
Let's look
Objects.
at,
section. Geometry.
geometry.
In section. 17 items. Geometry. Text. Trapezoid. Button. Parallelogram. Rhombus. Button. Terminator. Cylinder. Cube. Button. Cuboid. Button.
Yep, look at all those. You actually have geometry shapes. So all of these, and you can VO space on any of these that you want, and it inserts them as an object into your Keynote. I'll stop interacting
Press
there.
escape key to exit popover. Slide. Layout area.
Okay, there we go. Good hint. All right, praise God. I want to show you share, and I want to show you the menu bar. Let's go to the share
Toolbar.
and the
Input
toolbar,
chart. Text. Shape. Meet. Comment. Share. Button.
so you can hear these options.
19 items. Image. Mac Keynote test. Keynote presentation. Middle. 2.6 megabytes. Collaborate. Pop-up button.
It's already set to collaborate, so that means that if I want to work with somebody in real time or whenever we want together, I can just leave that on collaborate. If I want to send them a copy, I can VO space on that to change it. But this is how we
Only
collaborate.
invited people can edit. Button.
That's a button you can change. You can decide, can anybody look at this or just the invited people? And can anybody edit it or is it read only? And if you are doing anyone with a link instead of only invited people, then it's going to give you a web link. And I highly encourage you then to disable editing for your participants, because anybody might be able to edit.
Cliff. Button. Carson Vol. Molly Fate. Jessica Vol. Airdrop. Mail. Button.
All these different ways I can share this. Sharing suggestions. And here's a share sheet with
messages,
mail,
notes,
messages.
button, invite with link, freeform, button, simulator,
Invite with
button, shortcuts, button, export and send, button.
Now, export and send is going to give me options to export this to other formats. And I don't believe that's the only place that we're going to find that. So I'm going to save that for the menu bar. So let's hit
Share
escape
button.
here. Okay. The one other thing that I think we ought to do before I want to ask Trainer Cliff to share something too in a minute, but I think the one other thing for us to do here is to go ahead and take a look at the menu bar. Again, remember fundamentals, predictable patterns. What's the first menu in a Macintosh menu bar, no matter what app? Because we're going to ask you that trivia question. What is always the first menu in a menu bar on the Mac? We'll give you a few seconds. And time. And if you said it's the Apple menu, you are absolutely correct. Apple, and then the next one over is always the application name. So in this case, it's the Keynote menu. So I'm going to VOM, and we're going to skip over
Apple,
those two.
Keynote, menu, file, menu.
And almost always, the file menu is third. Almost always. Very rarely will you ever see an exception to that one, too. And so you have file, and let's look at what's
New
in
ellipsis,
here.
Command N.
All right, you can create a new presentation
Open
with Command
ellipsis,
N.
Command O.
Open an existing presentation with
Open
Command
recent,
O.
submenu.
Nice submenu of your recent presentation.
Close, Command W.
Typical.
Save, Command S. Save as ellipsis. Duplicate, Command Shift S. Rename ellipsis. Move to ellipsis. Revert to, share ellipsis.
And here you have share.
Activity settings ellipsis, dimmed.
And probably
Share, edit, menu, undo typing, file, menu, new, save as rename, move, revert to, share
wanna look at
ellipsis.
that a minute and see.
Closing, collab.
It's probably the same
19
thing.
item, Mac Keynote present, collaborate.
Yep, it's
pop-up
exactly
button,
the same.
Share
So
button.
escape out of that. Okay, it's the same thing. All right.
Apple Keynote file, new,
what else?
Reject, export to, submenu.
Export to. Now, this is interesting. I'm going to have Trainer Cliff take the floor in a moment or two and talk about how he uses this. But let me just show you these options under export
to, submenu, 7 items PDF ellipsis. PowerPoint ellipsis. Movie ellipsis.
Movie.
Animated GIF ellipsis.
Animated GIF.
Images ellipsis. HTML ellipsis. Keynote 09 ellipsis. Keynote
Look at
09.
all of those export options if you want to get this out some other way. And now we're going to
file,
VO left arrow to get out of that, and then
reduce file size, advanced, submenu.
Not going to really
set password ellipsis.
Mess with those, I don't think.
Advanced language and change file.
Okay, so we're not going to mess with that. But over here,
set password.
We also have our edit
menu 20.
Okay, just like you'd expect. Not going to go through that right now. You can take a look at these on your own time. But
insert menu 17 items.
What can we insert?
Line break dimmed. Column break, dimmed. Table, submenu, chart, text box. Shape, line, highlight, comment, Command Shift K. Image gallery. Web video ellipsis, live video. Import from iPhone, submenu. Record audio. Formula, submenu. Equation ellipsis, choose ellipsis, Command Shift, choose ellipsis.
A lot of the same options and even more options than we had before.
Slide menu.
There's a slide menu up in the menu bar.
New slide, Command Shift N.
And there is a keyboard command for a new slide. It's Command Shift N to insert a new slide. So that's the way you do that also. So we know there's a couple of different ways. It's in the toolbar, it's in the menu bar under slide, and it's Command Shift N.
Skip slide, Command Shift H. Expand, dimmed. Expand all, dimmed. Collapse, collapse all. Show slide numbers on all copy guides, paste guides.
Okay.
Go to.
Not going to do all of that right now, but I just wanted to point out that that's something there.
Go to submenu. 5 items. First slide. Last slide. Slide ellipsis command.
So you get the idea. You can enter a number.
Slide ellipsis command.
All right.
Go to paste guides. Dimmed. Format menu.
Format has a whole bunch.
Font. Text. Table. Chart. Shapes and lines. Submenu. Image. Submenu.
These are all submenus.
Movie. Submenu. Copy style. Dim Command Option C.
All right, you can play with the format menu more on your own time.
Arrange menu 12.
We're not going to look at arrange.
View menu 28.
View.
Play menu not.
And the play menu. There's actually a play menu in the menu bar.
Play slideshow Command Option P.
Learned another keyboard shortcut.
Play recorded slideshow dimmed. Check mark in full screen. In window. Record slideshow ellipsis. Clear recording ellipsis. Rehearse slideshow. Show presenter display in window dimmed. Customized presenter display ellipsis. Customize present.
And then
Window menu.
that is it. And then there's the window
Closing
and
menu.
the
Share
help
button.
menu. Now, what I want to ask Trainer Cliff if he'll tell you about is that, so I've shown you a very basic way to animate and to create and add slides and so on. But what we didn't tell you is that we often use Keynote for something that you probably have come to look forward to if you are a student or a customer of TTJ or SturItUp or both. And I normally do it on the iPad and it works great, but I want Trainer Cliff to tell you because he does it on the Mac. So would you share with them, Cliff, how you use Keynote on the Mac almost every day?
Correct. That's how I get our audio recordings from the podcast up on YouTube for people who prefer YouTube. So you would go into the file menu and you go to export, and one of the options is make export to movie. And what it does is it puts the slide, whatever image you have, and I usually put the TTJ logo or the Mac for the, not Mac for the Blind, the More with the Mac logo, depending on what class it is. And I even do it for John Panery's over at Mac for the Blind. I put his logo when it's his presentation. I put that in a slide, and I also put the title, whether it's, iPad for all computing, More with the Mac, or Mac for the Blind, and then the subtitle goes into the same slide on a subtitle page, and it's the actual title of the episode. So if it's iPad for all computing session number 21 as I produce today, it will go in that slide. So, and then what I do is go to the insert menu and said it'll say it'll give you a bunch of choices, but then it'll say select one because audio is not actually a choice. So you just go grab that file, MP3, M4A, whatever kind of file, except for video, because you don't want it to be huge. And you take that file and you add it to the slide. And what happens is when you export it to a movie, it puts the logo as a video. It doesn't move or anything, but it appears to be a video to YouTube. Therefore, when you play that video / audio file that's in the slide on the YouTube, it plays it and it shows that logo along with the text that I put into the slide while the video is playing. So if you are sighted, you will be able to see that. But that's how I do it on the iPad or on the Mac, and Trainer Matt does it on the iPad. And it's a great feature because there's another thing you can do. So I don't have to create a presentation each time. I have the TTJ, SturItUp, and Mac for the Blind presentations. I have them locked. So when I go to create a new presentation with a new audio file, it asks me if I want to duplicate or unlock. I always hit duplicate because I could just rename it later before it goes up on YouTube. That way I don't have to create the presentation or the slide, for lack of a better term, each time that I want to, turn it into a movie and put it up on YouTube for whoever subscribed to our YouTube channels to listen to. So, I mean, it has a lot of great features. I probably don't even use half of them. I just use it for the fact that I can use an audio file and turn it into a video, and I don't have to worry about going into a complicated app, which is accessible, but it is a little cumbersome and has bigger files, which will be Final Cut Pro, or I don't have to. There used to be the service I used to use called Tunes to Tube, which would actually do it for you, but that was a yearly subscription. But once Trainer Matt taught Keynote a couple of years ago, I tried it, mastered, the way that I get the videos up on YouTube, and now it takes me less than 30 seconds to do it. I mean, I have the longest process is waiting for the movie to be exported to a movie, and depending on how long the audio file is or how much animation or detail you have in the slide, it usually takes maybe a minute, maybe 3 minutes. It just depends. The longest I've ever waited is 3 minutes, and it's ready. And then uploading it to YouTube, titling it, tagging it, putting it on a playlist, all that is elementary. So that's how I do it with our class audio from all the classes, which would be VoiceOver in and out in the fall, Mac More with the Mac in January and February, and now the current running iPad for all computing class that will end in a couple of weeks. Not too late to subscribe to the podcast or the YouTube channels on either SturItUp or TTJ Talk and get caught up and join us for our last few classes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I do very much do the same thing on the iPad. And on the iPad, I don't even lock it. What I do is I just keep the same file and just change the dates and the names. Instead of session 3, I'll say session 4 or whatever, and then I just delete the audio that I have in there and add another one. But I mean, again, there's so many ways you can do this, and it syncs across all these devices. So it's really, really a powerful thing. I think that's it, right? Is there anything else that we need to go over with this? I think that's it. So
yeah, that is about it. I mean, the only thing that I would recommend if you're gonna do something on the Mac, I mean, you can do what Trainer Matt does, or you can do what I do. I mean, personal preference, like we always say. So if you want to lock your presentations, and so you don't have to create them each time, or you can just go back to the same project and just change the name and insert that audio file. You can do it either way. That is pretty much it. I mean, it's a powerful app. It can do a whole lot more than what we demonstrated, but that's one of those things that we talk about, the predictable patterns, the menus being the same, being able to find the information, knowing where to look for it, going into the help, seeing what's new. I mean, Apple changes stuff all the time, and they move stuff around, and they add features without telling you. So, you'd be surprised on what you can find in these menus, especially in the help section. All right, thanks to my buddy over at TTJ Tech.biz for that great presentation on Keynote. You can even go further with Keynote by tricking YouTube into thinking it's video and adding audio with a photo. We might show that one day, but since you can connect your podcast directly to YouTube from most platforms, that's not even necessary anymore. All right, last but never least, we're going to hear from my mentor, my friend, rest in peace, John Panarese, one more time. People sent in questions asking about the Mac, and he did a session answering those questions. So we'll hear from him one more time, and then we'll wrap it up for this year of More with the Mac. JP Reloaded.
This was, you asked me about the Mac. So what I am going to attempt to do here is, so one of the questions I got was in regards to the Mac, the clipboard or the pasteboard. And I think there was a little confusion in regards to this person, how the clipboard works. So basically, in essence, what this person was trying to do was take text from one source, let's just say a text edit document, and he wanted to paste it into an email to send to somebody. And then he tried to do it with a second paragraph to a different email, and he said that he got back basically what he had pasted the first time around. So the only thing I could potentially think of that might have happened is you have to remember to do Command C and make sure that VoiceOver says, text copy to clipboard or whatever. If you're not sure, what I would do is I would probably do a blank text edit document and just do a Command V and paste it just to make sure it's exactly what you want to have in the document or email or whatever it is you're going to send. I've had, weird things happen with the clipboard, but I can pretty much say 100% that it's user error. It's really, as far as I can tell, it's not anything that's happening with the system or whatever. It's just sometimes me being careless. So I'm guessing that's what's happening here. So just make sure you do the steps carefully, and that you test to see what's actually being pasted. You should not, be pasting entire text. If you do Command A and select all and Command C, and yes, you're going to get everything. But if you're surgically highlighting and copying stuff with Command C to the clipboard, and then you turn around and paste it elsewhere, you should only have what was copied originally, not the entire deal. So I don't know, as I said, it might be just an error on the user's part. I'm not sure, but that's the answer to that question. Somebody asked, how do you put the Mac to sleep if there's no activity for a certain interval? In system preferences for desktop Macs such as iMacs or Mac Minis, that is done in energy saver preferences. You need to interact with the slider. And this way, you can set it. I believe the default is 5 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's 5. But you could set it to whatever you want. So this way, if there is no activity, the Mac will automatically go to sleep. The screensaver will kick in. On laptops, it's under what is called battery now. And there's a table you have to interact it with, and you have to select. I think it's on battery power or something to that effect. And make sure, again, interact with the slider. Actually, I think in this, I'm going to open up you're not going to be able to hear this. So, because I'm doing this from my laptop, just going to take a quick look because I'm not sure if it's a slider or not. Yeah, so it's going to be battery in the table, interact with the table and select battery, stop interacting, turn display off after. So you interact with the slider and I think the default is 40% or something like that. And you might have to kind of experiment and kind of push the slider in one direction, stop interacting and see what it's going to tell you. It'll say, 15 minutes, a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever the case might be. But, once you have it set, then you should be fine. So again, battery on laptops, energy saver preferences on desktop computers. How do you give the Mac um, a personalized name when you first wake up the Mac? I'm not sure what this question actually means, so I'm going to take a stab at this. Um, you can go into system preferences under sharing, and if you select file sharing, there's a place where you can give your Mac a specific name that it's seen on the network, meaning that, like, usually it'll just say John's MacBook Pro or John's Mac Mini. If you wanted to give your Mac a personal name of some kind and call him, Sammy or, Rufus or whatever, you could, I'm sure, change that in the edit field and call it whatever you want. Um, I know that if you're at the login window, if you wanted to put like a personalized message, you can do that in system preferences under security and privacy. I believe there's a place where you can do a 3-line, personal message that, this is, King John's MacBook Pro, do not touch, or something like that. You can have a 3-line message, and then I know for like organizations, schools, and such, you can. There's an Apple knowledge base article that explains how to do an entire banner. So, like if you have a school or a workplace and you want something more than a couple of lines, you can do that as well. So, I'm not sure if I'm answering your questions, but those are the two things that come to mind. Well, the screen and VoiceOver should go to sleep. This is a follow-up question from the same person, and when I explained energy saver and battery before, but VoiceOver and the screen should sleep at the same time. There's, as far as I'm aware, there's no separate setting. I mean, once the computer goes to sleep, VoiceOver should stop talking. Um, you know, I know on occasion weird things happen with dark mode where, what happens with the Mac and Power Nap is it will actually kind of sort of wake up to do certain processes like check mail, run time machine backups and things like that based on whether it's plugged into power or not. There are certain things the Mac will do if you're on AC power, but if you're not on AC power, it will sort of ignore things that are more power intensive. But I've had situations where I've heard VoiceOver sort of blabber for a second, like it's talking in its sleep. So I haven't noticed that in a while, but I know it caught my attention a couple of times because it scared the ever living daylights out of me in a very quiet room where I thought the Mac was sleeping, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden I hear VoiceOver saying a couple of words. So, but I haven't heard that in a while. How do you troubleshoot when the Mac stops talking? That is a great question. I get asked this question a lot by people. I have a few sort of things I automatically do. I try, first of all, navigation keys. So I'll do VoiceOver left, right arrows just to see if something happens there. I'll do Command Tab, Command Shift Tab, just to try to see if getting out of an application will get it to start talking. I'll make, because one of the things is if you hear sound effects but no voice, the chances are is you probably muted VoiceOver's speech and from the trackpad. So do like you do on in iOS with the 3-finger double tap on the screen, and that should unmute VoiceOver. So if you're hearing the sound effects while you're moving around and such, that just means that the VoiceOver speech is muted most likely. It is easy to accidentally do. Believe me, if your trackpad commander is on and you're using a laptop, it's very easy to do a lot of different things without realizing it because your fingers are just accidentally touching the trackpad, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're getting absolutely no sound as far as VoiceOver and sound effects go, then like I said, try moving the VoiceOver navigation around. Do a Command Tab. I would even try Command F5, turn VoiceOver off, turn VoiceOver back on again to see if that's the issue. Obviously, if you're using a touch bar Mac, you're going to hold down the Command key and you're going to press the Siri button 3 quick times to toggle VoiceOver off or back on again. So those are like things that I would automatically do. When all else fails, I hold down the power button to force the Mac to turn off, and I'll restart it. But I've really, other than beta testing, I've really never had, in terms of an active operating system, where VoiceOver just stops talking without a reason for it happening. In other words, it's not like Jaws, where Jaws just goes away for mysterious reasons, or you get the blue screen of death, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying stuff like that doesn't happen at all on a Mac, because I would be, I'm not going to go out on a limb that far. But I will say it happens far less often, at least for me, where I lose speech. And it's usually beta testing early versions of the operating system. I'm sure Cliff and other people on this lesson who have beta tested can attest to that. That, when you're running earlier versions of beta, it's all bets are off. You have no idea what's going to happen. But when you have an active OS with VoiceOver, at the most, VoiceOver will crash and reboot again. It'll come back on. Like you'll hear it say the VoiceOver message when it comes back on again for some reason. But I've never, really had a situation where everything abandons me and I'm forced to really just press the power button and restart the Mac. Usually that's in beta cycles. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Time Machine, because this is another question I've gotten from people, and it is a topic near and dear to me because I am horrified sometimes to find out and read things about people who have used computers for many, many years and don't back up their system, or they do it piecemeal. Once in a while, they'll copy files onto an external drive, but they don't really have a backup system or a backup solution. So Time Machine is built into the Mac. If you go into System Preferences, you'll find a preference pane for Time Machine. It's very simple to set up and it's very simple to manage. All you need to do is get yourself an external drive of any kind. I would highly recommend, don't just take a drive you have laying around with material with data already stored on it. Keep in mind that when Time Machine runs for the first time, it reformats your disk into APFS if you're running Big Sur. So if you have data on that disk, it's going to go bye-bye. So what I would make sure you definitely use a blank disk, or if at the very least partition the drive into halves and use the blank partition to do the Time Machine backup on. Now, when Time Machine runs, you'll get a dialog that pops up on the screen that says, your Mac has detected untitled, blah, 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 whatever the name of the disk is. Would you like to use this for Time Machine backups? So you VO arrow, there'll be a button that will say use disk, or if you want to, don't want to use the disk, then you select the cancel. But use disk means that you initiate or engage the time machine process. It's going to take several minutes the first time through, because what it does the first time around is it does a complete copy of your operating system, of your system files, your user data, et cetera, et cetera. Subsequently, it only references changes that you've made since the last time you've done a time machine backup. Now, you can leave the drive plugged in if you have that capability. If you're doing it like over a network, if you have like an external drive connected to your router or something like that, if you have lucky enough to still have a time capsule, then it's automatically backing up hourly. But if you're not in that situation, what I recommend to my clients and other friends and such who are using Macs, depending on your usage, if you're a heavy user of the Mac, you want to kind of make a schedule, a personal schedule, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Take a few minutes out of your day, plug the drive in, let it do its thing. If you're not really using the Mac as frequently, then maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. Make sure though you do get on a schedule. Now, if your Mac is not plugged in, it still performs backups. It does what's called snapshots. So with Big Sur, God forbid something does happen to your computer, you can still restore from a time machine backup, because the Mac will use the snapshots. And then once you are connected to your actual time machine drive, it will then take the snapshots and convert them, into actual time machine backups. So it's a very easy system to take care of. You don't have to do much other than plug in the drive. If you're curious, you can go into into system preferences under time machine, and I'm going to do that on this computer here just to kind of
System preferences window, preference panes, scroll area. In desktop and screensaver, time machine button. In time machine, window, toolbar.
So I have a backup already set up.
On image, time machine, backup automatically, checkbox.
So you have the checkbox to backup automatically. Since I have the time capsule, it does it automatically in background.
Text image, Wahoo, John's time capsule.local.
So it tells you what disk you're using. In my case, it's a Wahoo, which is my time machine disk that I use for backups.
547 gigabyte available. Oldest backup, October 4th, 2020. Latest backup, today, 12:54 p.m.
So you get all this information about your backups as you VO arrow through the preference pane.
Select backup disk button.
So if you wanted to select a different backup disk, or some people will use multiple backups, you can use different drives for backing up your Mac. So if you take your Mac to work with you, or you take your Mac to school and you have the ability to take to have like a passport or some small drive with you, you can have multiple backups. I really don't have a reason to do that, but I do have some clients who take their Macs to work with them, and they have a disk at the job in their office, and they'll do their backups there, and they'll also do them at home. So that's the cool thing about Time Machine, is that you can use multiple disks. You also can encrypt backups to make them basically password protected. So what happens is you want to save the password to the keychain of the Mac that you're obviously backing up. So in other words, your home base Mac. But just in case that drive you plug into another Mac, you're going to need to know the password for that encryption to be able to decrypt the drive and use that Time Machine backup. Now, Time Machine allows you to recover lost files, that were deleted and you cleared the trash. If you deleted an email and emptied the trash, and all of a sudden you go, "Oh my God, I should have had that. I should have kept that," which happened to me only a couple of weekends ago, where I had an email from an agency overseas looking for VoiceOver Mac training, and I wanted to do a follow-up for the woman to make sure she got the information she requested, only to realize that I somehow deleted the original email. So I was able to use Time Machine and recover the email. You also can use Time Machine to restore your entire system. So, like what I did when I got my M1 MacBook Pro, I Time Machine backed up my old MacBook Pro, and I used that drive. So when I was setting up the M1, I just chose to restore from a Time Machine backup. So it brought everything over so that the M1 looks exactly as my original MacBook Pro did. So, that's really a lot of cool things you can do with Time Machine. And if I get enough requests, I mean, I could probably spend an entire lesson showing you how to recover files and things like that. Only because, unfortunately, I've been there a few times and have had to use Time Machine to recover things that I stupidly deleted or got rid of, thinking, hey, I'm never going to need this again. So it definitely will save your bacon at least a few times in your Mac life. How large of an internal storage drive is available on a Mac? I have to say you caught me with that one. I don't know is it 2 terabytes? Cliff, do you happen to know? I think it's
I
2
think
terabytes.
I think on the Pro, if you get it specially made or designed, whatever you want it configured, I think you can go up to 4 terabytes on the Intel, but on the M1, it is 2 terabytes.
Yeah, I think you're right, 'cause I don't really. I get a 1 terabyte and I'm fine. I mean, but I realize there are people now these days, especially if you do audio or video editing and rendering and stuff, that sometimes, you might can't as hard as it is to imagine, 1 terabyte isn't necessarily enough for some people. So, but I think Cliff is right, 4 on the Intels and 2 on the M1s. I don't This next question is, can you set the Mac to have a specific font, in all, eh, all the text areas of specific font size, etc. I think it is a per app basis. I don't think that you can, through the GUI, do a universal thing. I think it's based on the application that you're running, whether it's Pages, TextEdit, etc. I am aware, and I'm just going to mention this. I am not recommending this to anybody. I'm not telling anybody to run out and do this because you want to be very technically savvy. But there is an application called Tinker Tool that allows you to do things that you would typically only be able to do through the command line. And I know in the past I've had some very savvy, um, you know, that you can actually set. I think you can set a universal font size and stuff, but you'd have to do that through Tinker Tool. And I have it, but I've really not messed with it, only because, as I said, it kind of is a backdoor way to do stuff that you could only do with the command line. And if you don't know what you're doing, you could probably do some damage to your Mac without intending on it. So I would only recommend Tinker Tool if it's still being supported. To be honest with you, as of Big Sur, I don't know if there still is a Tinker Tool because of the way Apple has changed their security and such. But I know some users had used it in the past. But I don't think, to answer your question, that you can universally set a font size and type for all of the text areas. I think that is a per app basis. How do you set the Mac to always save newly created documents in a designated location? Usually, if you do that through the save dialog, it remembers the last place that you saved. So if you don't change that, it should always save to that particular location. So that can be very helpful, but can also be problematic in the sense that sometimes when I'm saving documents, depending on what the document is, I don't necessarily want it to be saved to the last location. But if you're the type of person that wants to keep order and, eliminate chaos, as long as you have, selected that location through the save dialog, it should always honor that. And that also goes for another question that the same person asked about how do you make sure that mail attachments always get saved to the downloads folder? Once you've set that in the save dialog, it should always go to downloads. It always has for me. I've not changed that particular thing in Mail forever. So anytime I save a mail attachment, it ends up in downloads. I do know by default with some people's new Macs, for some stupid reason, it ends up in the user home folder in the root directory of the home folder. But you can easily change that by going through the save dialog and just selecting your downloads folder from the pop-up menu, and it should keep doing that from that point on, unless you change it manually yourself. How do you always set the Mac to always open attachments in the text edit app? That really comes down to the file type that you're opening. You can do this in a kind of a backdoor way through Finder. If you save the attachment, if you save it into Finder in, like, let's say documents or downloads or whatever, there is a in the Get Info window, if you do a Command I, you can manipulate the open with options, and you can always choose always open with text edit, but that is going to be based on specific document file types. In other words, RTF, Microsoft Word, DOX, whatever. You can set that, make sure that only, text edit opens those document types. But remember, once you make that change, that's going to be, permanent until you change it again. But you can definitely do that if you just take the time to do that through the Get Info window in Finder. So it's Command I, and you just work your way through that window. And there's a point where I think it will say Open With, and the Mac will usually pick the app that is most suited for that file type. So in other words, if it's a Microsoft Word document and you have Word on your Mac, even though you might desire to open Word documents through text edit or Pages, it's going to always default to Microsoft Word. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, so somebody asked how to navigate through files and folders. That's going to probably take me an entire lesson, and I believe my next paid lesson is actually on this very topic for Finder. And I'll be going over in detail how to navigate through your file and folder structure. But basically, to kind of summarize this as best as I can, when you open a Finder window, the Finder window basically consists of three parts: the toolbar, the sidebar on the left-hand side, and the browser on the right-hand side. When you open a Finder window, the VoiceOver cursor, and it always starts off on the browser side. Now, browsers are one of the item types that require interaction. So you will have to interact with the browser. The other thing you need to understand is the view, the view in Finder. There's really two usable views out of the four that the Mac offers, and that being list and column. Now, I know somebody asked a question about this, so I'm going to answer it right now. Somebody asked the difference between list and column view. So I like column view because the way column view presents things is it's kind of like the traditional tree view in Windows. So you expand folders by going to the right, you collapse folders by going to the left, and anything that's in the same column is in the same folder or on the same level. So, for example, if you're in the root directory, which is the topmost level of your Macintosh HD, you have four folders: Applications, Library, System, and Users. If you're on Applications and you go to the right, you're expanding, you're going into the Applications folder, and then you will be presented with the column that has all of your applications in alphabetical order. If you left arrow or VO left arrow back to the Applications folder, you'll be back in your root directory. So you have collapsed the Applications folder behind you. List view is a little bit different. List view is like one gigantic list, and it can be a little disconcerting until you understand, at least in my humble opinion, and there may be people who will disagree with me, but if you opened your applications folder with VO backslash, and I think VO spacebar might even do it, as you arrow down, you're going to have all your applications in alphabetical order. And then when you get to the last application and you keep going down, you'll then hear library, system, and users. So it expands the folder, but it keeps it in one list. So it's one vertical list. So sometimes, unless you kind of know what your folder structure is, trying to determine where the heck you are in it can be a little bit challenging unless you really are used to that. So that's why I like columns, because you go to the right, you're going deeper into the folder structure. If you're backing out to the left, you're coming back, you're closing things behind you. And it gives you a better idea of the depth, of how your folder structure is laid out. So the root directory is the topmost when you open up Macintosh HD. The user folder list is the second level, and that will contain your home folder. So your home folder is going to be a folder that either has your first name or your full name sort of compressed into one. So, for example, my home folder is called John. So I'm just going to do a quick
Email, tap messaging, text app, Finder, Samantha Ulnick, window.
There you go.
Cycle through windows, downloads, window, cycle through windows, Awado, volume, Macintosh HD.
So I'm going to open Macintosh HD.
Open, Macintosh HD, window, column view, in column view, browser, Macintosh 8 applications, fold.
So here's my applications. I'm going to go down.
Library, system, users, folder.
So if I go to the right,
John, folder.
There's my home folder called John. Now, if I was sharing this computer with other users, the users' home folders would all be in alphabetical order. But since I'm the only one using this computer, I'm the only home folder. So if I go to the right,
Creative Cloud Files.
So this is my home folder root directory.
Docs, folder, downloads, Dropbox, Apple Audible, Apple Log, fold, games, Google Drive, fold, if archive, Music Caliber, library, folder, movies, fold.
So I have other folders that other people are not going to hear. So because I have different third-party apps that have created folders in this in my home folder, but typically you're only going to hear desktop documents, downloads, movies, music, pictures, and public, unless you're using documents in the cloud. If you have your iCloud drive turned on, you're only going to have downloads, movies, music, pictures, and public, because your desktop and documents folders are going to be in the cloud. Now, if you noticed, I created a
Google, Dropbox, downloads, docs, folder.
I created a folder called Docs because I wanted to have a documents folder that only contains stuff that I don't want in iCloud, but I want access to on my Mac. So I created that folder just for that purpose. But my desktop and my documents folders are actually in my iCloud drive. Now, as I said, the course I'll be doing next, I'm going to go into really a lot of detail in terms of how to open, the keyboard shortcuts, how to use the sidebar, how to copy and paste, things like that. But that's kind of a summary of how navigating your files and folders go. And hopefully I've answered the question, the difference between list view and column view. Let's see. Okay, so somebody asked about activities and commanders. They want to know what the difference is and when you would use an activity. They are complete different animals. So commanders are the four commanders, the trackpad, the keyboard, the numpad, and QuickNav. So you're going to assign commands specifically for that commander. So you can set up custom trackpad gestures, custom numpad commander key combinations if you have a numeric keypad, and then you can use the keyboard commander or QuickNav. Activities can encompass custom commander setups. So an activity kind of takes a page. I believe JAWS has this ability where you can have specific voiceover preferences that only come into play when you are running that specific application. So one of the things that, for example, that some people they get creeped out by Alex reading text for long periods of time because Alex kind of takes the breath between paragraphs, and some people find it a little creepy. I love it. I think it just makes it much more human-like, but there are some folks that would rather have a different reading voice. They like Alex for everything else, for menus, for for mail, everything else, but they don't want Alex reading their documents and when they're proofreading, etc. So what you might want to do as a simple example is create an activity that is assigned to text edit only. And you can customize what voiceover preferences that you want to have work only in text edit. So you can then select the voice category and change the voiceover voice to I don't know, Allison or Ava or Vicky or whatever, a voice that's more pleasing to you. So what will happen is anytime you go into text edit, that activity will load and it will change the voiceover preferences to whatever you've customized for that activity. But if you command tab back to mail or go to Safari, then your activity goes away and your normal default voiceover settings are re-engaged. So that, basically whatever you set up for that activity only runs when you're in that application. And that includes hotspots too. So if you, for example, have an application where you've set hotspots in specific areas, you can set up an activity for that particular app to make sure that the hotspots you've created will always be in the same locations. So, some people really make a lot of use of activities. It's funny because they were introduced as far back as Snow Leopard. And when they first came out, I went hog wild. I set, you know, numerous activities up just because I could. But I'll tell you, as of now, with Big Sur, I don't use any activity. I have everything either deleted or disabled. I just don't really find it necessary in my daily use. But I do know a lot of Mac users, voiceover users who do have activities for specific applications. So hopefully, I've differentiated. And just to kind of also add this, you can have an activity with different numpad commander combinations or different keyboard commander or additional keyboard commander, combinations that only work when you're within that application itself. So, there's a lot of cool things you can do if you really wanted to make activities work for you for a specific app. Okay, somebody asked about Finder tags. It's really, it's a neat feature to use particularly if you're starting off as a new Mac user, and it gives you an added level of indexing for your files and folders. And you can have as many tags, and you can have your own tagging system that Spotlight accesses when it does Spotlight searches. So you could have tags for, work, and then for me, for example, so, I have work tags, I have tags for specific state agencies, I have tags for, specific clients sometimes. So your tagging system can be as, complicated or involved as you'd like it to be, or as simple as you need it to be. So, you can access tags. When you open up a dialog to save something or an open dialog, there's this place in there. If you navigate around the screen and you have the full disclosure checkbox checked, the details, I should say, disclosure checkbox, you'll see a place for tags. In the Finder sidebar, there's also a place for tags. So, if you're looking for files, like you only want to see all your work files, or like, let's say I wanted to only see my files that have to do with the state of Washington, or with the state of Mississippi. I could use the tagging system, the referencing system to kind of, to just show those particular files. There is a take control of using, I think it's either take control of Finder or take control of using tags in Finder. If you really wanted to like kind of research and look into how to really effectively use them, I would definitely, as I've done in previous lessons, I highly recommend the Take Control books themselves, takecontrolbooks.com, because they have a lot of Mac and iOS resources. They're very inexpensive books. They're easy reads because they're not written from a technical standpoint. So it's very easy to kind of grab one of those books and just put it on your iPad or your iPhone and just read it. When you have time, and they do have take control of searching your Mac, take control of Big Sur, take control of pages and numbers. So there are some really good resources in there, and just be careful if you are kind of even slightly technically inclined. You may walk out of there spending $70 or $80, and easily in a clip on the different books that they have to offer. So somebody wanted to know, why would you duplicate a file? This is really a per user thing. I'll give you from personal example why I like the duplicate feature. So I have a couple of different templates that I use. I have a reporting template that I use for state agencies when I have to fill out progress reports for my clients. So someone from the state of Washington was very kind years ago to send me basically a nice skeleton form for filling out a progress report that has like the dates of service, the authorization number, the amount of hours worked, the who the counselor is, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever information that a state requires of me, I could sort of modify this document. So I have an original that I use, and then I duplicate the original when I have a new client, or I'm working with a new state and they have specific requirements that are different from another state. So I can use that template, duplicate it, and then save it under a different name, and then make whatever changes I want to do to that. I do the same thing with an invoice template and numbers. So I found a really cool invoice template that Numbers offers as a default, and I've kind of modified it so that it has my Mac for the Blind information and such on it. So I will duplicate the original. Sometimes I'll take clients' progress reports. If I'm working with them for several months, I'll take their previous report and I'll duplicate it, so I have that information in terms of the number of hours that I work. So all I have to do is update the report with the new hours and any additional notes. So it just makes my life easier to be able to duplicate an original, so I can do whatever I need to do with it without having to recreate it from scratch. It's really just another form of save as, but the duplicate aspect keeps the original document open and opens a second window with the duplicate. So you have both windows where save as basically replaces the original with the new saved document. So it just we're getting into kind of splitting hairs here, but that's really why I would say why somebody would want to duplicate. And I'm sure there's other examples out there, but that just comes to mind for me. So somebody wanted to know, with Microsoft Word products for Mac, do they have to interact with each page? If you are in the document, you can just navigate from page to page just by, VO down arrow. I don't know if VO page down always works, but what you can do is you can do this with pages as well. I call this flyovers when I work with clients, because it's like kind of try to picture yourself being in an aircraft kind of flying over the terrain. So before you interact with an actual page, if you VO arrow around, if it's a multiple page document, you'll hear it say page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. So you're basically flying over those pages. And then when you need to actually access a specific page, you can interact with that specific page. So there's two ways you can approach going through your document. So, if you've interacted with page 2 and you just keep navigating down, you'll go through the individual pages. So you don't have to stop interacting and, go to the next page and interact again. That's only useful to you if you have a multiple page document and you want to get from page 2 to page 10, pretty quickly. Then you can do the flyover, get to page 10 and interact, and then you're right there. For me personally, I find this very convenient. I know it's a little different for folks not used to it, but once you start to use it, because I'll admit in the beginning, I was definitely a little bit, I don't know what the heck this is about kind of thing, but once I started using it and I realized how effectively you can use it, it really works well for me. And as I said, it works in Pages. It works that way in Pages as well as Microsoft Word. It does not work that way in TextEdit, though. TextEdit is just, you interact with the document and that's it. Okay. Somebody wants to know how to format in the Pages application. There is a format bar. It's kind of like what Microsoft does with the ribbon, but in the case of the Mac, you use the format bar. So what I would typically recommend is using VOJ to jump between the document edit area and the format bar, and you'll find all your different options that you can format for double spacing, justify. And there are also keyboard shortcuts on the menu for centering, bold, italics, all those things you would do. You can definitely do in Pages. You just have to look around a little bit between either the menus or the format bar itself. So, I'm not going to do a whole Pages lesson here, but that's basically my short answer to that question. So somebody wants to know what boot camp is. Boot camp and virtual machines are two different ways that people use to be able to run Windows on their Mac. Boot camp separates the Mac partition and the Windows partition. So you actually have to boot into either operating system. So if you are in a situation for work where you need to use Windows for specific reasons, but you want to still have the safety and smooth running of a Mac, you can still create a boot camp partition and install Windows 10 and JAWS or NVDA, whatever your choice happens to be. The thing is, you have to start the operating systems separately. So, for example, on the Mac side, you go into the startup system preferences startup, and you can select, the Windows partition and start up, and force the Mac to not force, but make the Mac restart into Windows. Virtual machines, you run something like VMware Fusion that allows you to run Windows inside of the Mac operating system. So you're not installing a separate partition, but you're able to access Windows and JAWS and do whatever Windows applications you need to do while being in the Mac environment. So it's actually like running a separate application to give you access to Windows. Now, people are going to ask, what's better, what's easier? That's really up to the user. I'll be perfectly honest. I've not extensively used either. I've done it for proof of concept in terms of a few years back, I had Windows running in a virtual machine. I boot camped a Mac a few years ago as well, but I just have this personal dislike of having Windows anywhere near my Mac, so I just don't do that at this point. I'm not trying to be snarky or whatever, but it's just a personal thing. If I'm going to use Windows, I'm going to use it on my Lenovo. I'm not going to do it on my Mac. Somebody wants to know if Pages or Microsoft Word, what is better? Again, this is personal choice. I would say try them both out. If you are a long-term Microsoft Word user in Windows, it may be an easier, deal to use Microsoft Word on the Mac because you might have a lot more familiarity with commands and stuff. It's just slightly changing the keyboard commands. Usually, the Windows commands that involve Control key are usually switched to Command on the Mac. But I do have a document that has all of the Microsoft Word for Mac keyboard shortcuts. So if anybody is interested in that, write to me privately and I can send it to you. But I really can't answer, and I'm not ducking it. I really can't answer the question, what's better, quote unquote. I'm going to say, I could sit here and say as an Apple fanboy that Pages is better. I'm not, but that would be a disservice because I don't know what your needs are. This particular person says that they do playwriting and stuff like that. So you may find that Word is more familiar and better to you. But, Pages is definitely serviceable. The only thing I can say, you can export your documents and Pages to Microsoft Word. But I have been told by a few people that sometimes the formatting, depending on how crazy you get with the formatting in Word, sometimes doesn't seem to keep when you go from Pages and you export to Microsoft Word and you open it, in Word. I've not found this often. I've just heard it from a couple of people over the years, but the people who I've heard it from really do significant formatting and do crazy stuff that they need to do because I had one person who was a returned college student, and her professor had all kinds of crazy requests for how, they had to format with footnotes and stuff like that. And then the other person was I don't remember what they did for their work, but it had to do with submitting the Word documents for work. And there was a couple of nothing major, but just a couple of odd formatting issues that I think they actually got in contact with Apple and reported them as bugs. I think they ended up being bugs that I don't know to this day if they were fixed or not, because I don't remember off the top of my head what the problems were. Somebody else asks, what is relocated items in the Finder? When you upgrade to Big Sur, this is basically items that are not compatible with Big Sur. So the Mac kind of just calls it relocated items. You can always go, if there are any apps or anything like that, you can always go to the developer and ask them if they have a version of that runs, that's compatible with Big Sur. I guess you could delete them if you don't need them. I would just double check just to make sure what those items happen to be. But that's basically what the relocated items are. So somebody wants to know, if they buy a new computer, how would be the best way to transfer their data from the old computer to new? To me, if you use a time machine backup, you can restore directly from your time machine disk. During the setup assistant process, there's going to be a screen that asks you if you want to transfer your data or set up the computer as brand new. You select to transfer the data from the time machine backup, and you can restore it that way. You also can directly, if you have the right cables and you want to check with Apple which cables you exactly need based on the model of Mac and what ports you have on your Mac, but you can connect one Mac to your new Mac, and you can use Migration Assistant either during the setup process or after the fact. When you have the new Mac set up as a brand new Mac, you can always go into Migration Assistant later and restore, bring your account stuff and import all your accounts and your apps and stuff like that. If you do it in those two ways, you do not have to re-download the apps that you purchased or gotten from the Mac App Store. Everything should set up exactly how it was on your old Mac. For example, as I said to people, as I said to you guys earlier, when I got my MacBook Pro M1, I basically I basically connected the MacBook, my Time Machine disk to my MacBook Pro M1, and during the setup assistant, I just selected restore from Time Machine. So all I had to do was just, import, just use the Time Machine backup. It took, I don't know, half hour, maybe 40 minutes total, and I got everything back set up exactly how it was on the old Mac. So, it's really one of those two ways just to make it easier on yourself where you don't have to manually copy. And that's, and I'm not saying that manually copying your stuff over is a bad thing either. If you've had a Mac for a very long time and you've done upgrade after upgrade, sometimes it's a really good idea to just do a completely fresh install and then manually put your stuff back on the system so that you're not bringing over maybe corrupted files or wonky stuff that's kind of been in the woods the whole time. I've done this a couple of times over the years. Sometimes you just kind of know when it's time. It's just sometimes when you're playing with your Mac and there's weird stuff and and you just kind of say to yourself, I think it's that time where I just got to do a clean install and bring everything over, manually. And you'll be surprised, how the Mac is just runs like a champ, even more so if you do it that way. But there's no big deal if you're going to bring things over from an older Mac. I obviously understand it's easier and sometimes a lot more convenient. Okay. Okay. So somebody wants to know, with interaction, I would, they have questions about they're not getting the hang of interaction and the keyboard commands and such. So, I'm going to summarize this because again, I could do an entire lesson on interaction, and I do have an audio tutorial on that I specifically have for interaction on the Mac, just like I have an audio tutorial on the Finder. But interaction is basically taking a closer look or diving deeper into in part of an app's interface. So Apple has deliberately sort of separated parts of interfaces so that you know what belongs to what. So, for example, my earlier Finder reference when I said that there's three parts to the Finder window. When you open up a Finder window, the toolbar that runs across the top of the screen, the sidebar, and the browser. Those are three separate areas that require interaction to be able to navigate. So they're deliberately separated so that you don't get lost. You don't end up just wandering into the sidebar when you're not intending on doing that. That's why, and I can't help this phone. This is not my business phone. This is the home phone. So I'm hoping my brother answers it or I will kill him. And he did, thankfully. So as far as the keyboard commands go, yeah, I understand shift control option down arrow, shift control option up arrow can be a little key intensive. What you could do is you could use a keyboard commander action if you wanted to do, let's say, right option I or shift right option I, or if you have numpad commander, you can always set up, like, for example, by default, it's 7 and 9 to start and stop interacting. But you could always reassign that. Like I reassigned it to the plus and the minus keys on my numpad to make it easier. So, and then of course you have the trackpad. The 2-finger swipe to the right starts interacting. The 2-finger swipe to the left stops interacting. So there are, ways to go around if you're not really, comfortable or you're not getting the hang of doing the keyboard shortcuts. But I don't know who, I didn't put down who actually asked these questions. I should have probably done that at the top of each, question here, but I did not. So whoever asked this question, if you're really kind of lost with the interaction, contact me privately. As I said, I have an audio tutorial that's on the website, and you are entitled to a free tutorial. So you might want to, grab that one. Or if you have any specific questions, certainly ask. So somebody also asked, actually two people asked this same question about the messages application and how to get back to the messages area in the like, so in other words, when you're using messages on the Mac, you have a conversation list, you have a message content area, and then you have the edit field where you type your message. VOJ is probably the best way that you can go between those particular areas. So if you're in, you want to get to, let's say you choose from the conversation list, the conversation with John Panarese. So if you VOJ, that should put you into the message content so you can see the transcript between what you and I have been messaging back and forth with, and then you can use the VO arrow keys to explore that. If you start typing when you're on the name of the person in the conversation table, theoretically, it should automatically put you into the edit field, and you should just be able to type your message and hit enter to send. Now, if you're having difficulties kind of navigating back and forth between those different areas, what I would also recommend doing is setting up hotspots. So if you set up hotspots, you can then use the go to hotspot command to jump back and forth easily as well. And you can always set up an activity to kind of tie this to the earlier question that somebody asked about activities. So you could set up an activity for messages in which you have hotspots on the conversation list and the message area. So, there's a couple of different ways you can approach this if you really want to make it easier or convenient for yourself. Now, as far as I can tell, unless it's deliberately being done by Apple, there to me are a few little glitches in messages where if you select somebody from the conversation list and you just try to type, sometimes it doesn't type. It doesn't put you into the edit field. So you physically actually have to go to the edit field in VO space before it will allow you to start typing to that person. Not sure if there's something else going on. I'm missing a step. I haven't really gotten that under, and it's like people have asked me about the messages tutorial I have, and I've said to people privately, that's the one tutorial that is not up to date with Big Sur, only because I have not figured out a way to easily demonstrate the stuff that will consistently work for the tutorial. So until I kind of wrap my brain around how to kind of show people the easiest ways to do this, that's the only reason why that tutorial has not been updated. Somebody asked about QuickNav, and I'll summarize this very quickly and easily. So QuickNav allows you to use the arrow keys to navigate. Mainly, I mean, Safari's probably one of the best places to use QuickNav, but you certainly can use it with, Pages or TextEdit or Microsoft Word. It can mess you up, though, if you're using Finder or Mail or such, because of the way navigation doesn't work once QuickNav is engaged. So QuickNav allows you to use the 4 arrow keys either separately or in combination with one another. So the basic synopsis is this: left and right arrows pressed together toggles on or toggles off QuickNav. Now, once QuickNav is turned on, and VoiceOver will say QuickNav on or QuickNav off, so you always know. Once it's on, the right and bottom arrow keys pressed together, right and bottom arrow keys start interacting. Left and bottom arrow keys, left and bottom arrow keys stop interacting. The right or the left arrow keys by themselves, left and right by themselves, navigate you either forward or back by item, in the same way that if you're an iOS user and you use the flick to the right or the flick to the left gesture. The up and down arrows pressed together, up and down arrows, activates an item like you're doing VO space or a left mouse click. The right and up or left and up arrow keys, right and up and left and up arrow keys, turns the rotor. So either clockwise using right and up or counterclockwise using left and up arrows. And then the up or the down arrow keys by themselves, the up and down by themselves, utilizes that rotor selection. So in other words, if you turn the rotor to words or characters or lines and you're in text edit, if you press the up or the down arrow key, you will navigate by lines or characters or by words. If you're in Safari and you turn the rotor to headings, if you press the up or the down arrow key by themselves, you will navigate either forwards or backwards by headings through that web page. And then, of course, you have the single key navigation that you can also turn on with QuickNav within Safari if you want to emulate how Windows and JAWS and Window Eyes works, where you can do H for heading, shifted H to go to previous heading, T to next table, shifted T to previous table. You also have that capability as well. But that first letter navigation only works with QuickNav turned on in Safari. So I hope that summarizes QuickNav for you. Okay. Somebody asked about numbers and having VoiceOver automatically read row and column titles through navigating through a spreadsheet. I thought it does this by default. When I am in a spreadsheet and I'm going, it does say the column, the heading for, like, let's say I'm looking at my expense spreadsheet that I turn into my accountant. So I have the item, the date, the amount that was spent, and a couple of other headings, but it tells me what the headings are. I'm not specifically sure what this question, means. If the person is on at the end here, if they want to clarify this question, hopefully I can answer it. I will warn you that I am not a numbers connoisseur here. I don't use it in the same power level that other people use Excel and stuff. I use numbers for spreadsheets for turning into my accountants, my sales, my expenses, and I use it for personal stuff to keep some, personal, my budget and stuff like that. But that's about the extent. I don't do like multiple worksheets and really super duper levels of formulas and things like that. Just to warn you. And there are VoiceOver keys combinations to read rows and columns, because I think that was part of the person's question as well. I would have to look up what those are, because I don't want to throw them out there, because I know it involves like VOR, VOY. I don't want to just take a crack at it, but there are some VoiceOver commands for table navigation as well.
All right. The time has come for more at the Mac JP Reloaded to come to an end. But you can always come back to these and listen. You can always email feedback@SturItUp.com. That's FEE, the letter D, the word back at SturItup. If you want something else demoed, a demonstration, or hey, maybe you want to come on the show. Stay tuned for a new podcast launching. Well, actually, there's one episode up there already called Life Unmuted. That's going to be an interesting show. You can check out the description on its own website page, SturItUp.com/Life Unmuted. Anyway, like I said, it's been a great season. Listen to these episodes as much as you need to. John Panarese, I tell everybody who will always ask or listen, if he didn't know it about the Mac or Apple for that matter, it hadn't been invented. He was a very, very, very diligent student of the technology Apple ecosystem world, and he was an even better person. He taught people for free when he knew they couldn't afford it. He did not worry about it. I tried to pay him twice, and he sent the money back to me. So he's a one-of-a-kind guy. He will be missed. He will be missed. Again, questions, concerns, comments, feedback@SturItUp.com. And like I said, We'll be probably launching a couple episodes later this summer of More with the Mac, Beyond the Basics. Again, this is Cliff from SturItUp. See you next time. Thank you for joining More with the Mac, JP Reloaded. Remember, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, something you want demoed, or a topic you want covered, send us an email at feedback@sturitup.com. That's FEE, the letter D, the word back, at SturItup.com. See you next time.